This lecture on the Earth's resources focuses on renewable energy. The first type of renewable energy we're going to talk about is solar energy. There are two types of systems. We've got passive and active. With passive system, this is your typical greenhouse. Sunlight will go through a glass. The energy is absorbed by the plants and released as infrared radiation. The infrared radiation cannot go through the glass, so it's trapped. A good example of a passive system would be a car parked in the sunlight on a summer day. The sunlight will come through the glass, it'll heat up the seats in the car. The radiation will turn into infrared radiation, which is heat, and that heat doesn't travel through the glass very well, so the inside of the car gets extremely hot. Advantage of this type is it's clean and it's cheap. Some disadvantages, while the sun isn't always shining, so it doesn't always work. The second way is active. Active uses solar collectors. So this is a glass box located on the roof. Pipes filled with water will pass through the box. The water will heat up, and then the water is circulated throughout the house. You can also use photovoltaic cells. This will convert the sunlight directly into electricity. This works great for small devices. One example would be a calculator that doesn't use batteries. Advantage of this is it's clean. Disadvantage is it's not very effective. You also need sunlight, so it's not going to work on cloudy days very well. And it's also not good for high latitudes, because in areas of high latitude, they don't receive as much solar energy as a lower latitude would. Here's an example of passive solar heating. The sun in the summertime gets higher in the sky than the sun in the wintertime. So in the wintertime, the sunlight can come through the house and the glass and heat it up. In the summertime, the sunlight gets blocked by this eave, and this provides shade for the house. Therefore, the sunlight cannot enter the house and heat up the house nearly as much as the wintertime sun. Here's an example of active solar heating. Here we have a collector. This will collect the heat and heat up the water. The water will then circulate throughout the house. We can use it as showers. Here's just another diagram showing the warm and cold water. So here's your collector. The cold water enters it, it heats up and goes throughout the house. And we have more cold water coming up constantly being heated up. The next type of renewable resource is geothermal energy. Geo is a root word meaning earth. Therm is a root word meaning heat. So this is the earth's heat. So we're going to use energy from the interior of the earth. For geothermal energy, all we do is send cold water down one pipe. The cold water will travel through cracks and fissures in the rock. It'll heat up. If there's magma nearby, it'll heat up. That hot water is then transferred up a second pipe, and we use that hot water in houses, or we can use that hot water as steam to turn turbines to make electricity. Advantages, it's clean. This means that it doesn't pollute. And once it's built, it's relatively low maintenance. Disadvantages include it's expensive to build, so building those actual wells are expensive. And you can only build it where there's magma close to the surface. This link will show you an animation of geothermal energy. So here we pump down cold water. It travels through cracks and fissures near the magma. That hot water, such as steam, will come up, and that can heat your house, or it can be used in a generator to make electricity. In the generator, it would turn turbines, and that creates electricity. The next type of renewable energy is hydroelectricity. Hydro is a root word meaning water, so we're going to use water to produce energy. Dams will hold back water. The water then will flow down a hill, and it is forced through a turbine. The turbine is what moves electrons. This will produce electricity. Advantages of hydroelectricity: it's clean, meaning no pollution, and it's renewable. Disadvantages: you can only build it where you have a river, so it's not going to work well in deserts. Also, when you build a dam, it's going to flood the ecosystem upstream, killing it off, and you're going to dry out the ecosystem downstream, killing it off. Plus, they're expensive to build. If they're not maintained properly, they can cause a lot of damage when they break. So here's a cross-section of a dam. The water is channeled through a tube, and this will turn the turbines, which generates electricity. Another way we can use water is through tidal energy. So typically, twice a day, we have tides moving in and out. We can build dams to trap the water at high tide and then release it when it's low tide, and it would work the same way as a river dam would. It would turn turbines producing electricity. Advantages: it's clean and it's also renewable. Disadvantages include disrupting the ecosystems. An example of this might be migratory animals wouldn't be able to go where they normally do to spawn, so populations would decline. Also, not all locations have very strong tidal currents. And last, this will only supply electricity to towns close to the ocean. Here are some different models. Here would be the dam, and as the high tide comes in, the water is forced through this little tunnel, and that would turn our turbine. And it would also work in reverse. When the water exits the dam, it would turn the turbine again. Here's a tidal fence. So here we just have a bunch of fans or turbines in the water. As the water passes through, it would turn them. Here's another design of a fan in the water. Another design would actually trap the water, stop it from flowing through here until the water is at its highest point. Then when they open the gates, this would cause the water to flow at a much higher rate because there's more pressure behind the high tide region. The next type of renewable energy is wind energy. Here wind will turn windmills, which turns a turbine to generate electricity. Advantages: it's relatively cheap and it's clean, meaning it doesn't pollute. Disadvantages: you need a windy location. So this is only going to really work on top of mountains or high hills or near a beach. Plus, the wind doesn't always blow. Other research has shown that it can disrupt migratory birds. Birds really can't fly through big fields of fans. Also, local residents have complained about the turbines being very noisy. Here's a diagram showing that when the blades turn, this will turn a turbine, generating electricity. The closest example to us would be at the Turkey Hill plant south of Wrightsville. This is along the Susquehanna River. Here's a picture of a much larger wind farm. Another disadvantage for wind farms would be that they have to cut down all the trees, which will destroy ecosystems. The trees will slow down or block the wind, so they have to clear them in order for the wind to blow fast. Let's take a minute to review. First question: how do solar collectors work? Solar collectors work by using the sun's energy to heat water. The water is then circulated throughout the house. Next question: how do most people in Iceland heat their homes? To help your thinking, think about why Iceland exists. Think about the tectonic plates. Iceland is on a hot spot at the mid-Atlantic ridge. Therefore, they're going to have magma close to the surface, and they use geothermal energy. Last question: is tidal power renewable or non-renewable? Why? Tidal power is renewable because the tide comes in every day.